Welcome to California in Focus, and this is Madeline Shannon here today with Kenneth Schrupp, who's got a public records update for us on San Diego overtime. Is that right, Kenneth?
That's right, Madeline. So overtime in San Diego has increased 65% from 2019 to 24, and that's despite having an $89 million deficit this year. We have public records requests that have provided this data for us. So the number of city employees earning $100,000 or more in just overtime within this time frame has nearly doubled. And the city already faces an $18.4 million shortfall for the ongoing fiscal year, right? So like they made a budget based on expectations of revenue and spending. Combined, they're spending plus getting less money, adding up to about $18.1 million short of what they expected. So that's a major problem. In response, the mayor of San Diego, Todd, Gloria, he's ordered a halt to all non-essential overtime, but they're still expecting a deficit of $89 million at least for the next year. Here's where things start to get tricky. The overtime order doesn't really apply to, quote, things that directly impact core city services that create public safety or health issues. When you look at where this overtime is being spent, you'll see that the biggest earners of overtime are almost entirely all first responders. So I looked at the 2024 data. 208 out of the 211 city employees who earned more than $100,000 in overtime were first responders. Of those remaining 3, 2 of them worked for the city's water system. That city water system must be working 24/7. A third is a street lighting technician. Maybe they're on call, maybe they're doing a lot of jobs. But still, that's 208 out of 211 who seem to be exempt from this rule. Maybe all the remaining 3 are all exempt from this rule as well, because water, lighting for traffic and streets, that could be something that's justifiably needed for core city services. So I've asked around and tried to learn, well, why are they using so much overtime? Why are they not just hiring more employees? Overtime is expensive, usually costs time and a half. Once you get to a certain number of hours, you enter something called golden hour. I think your pay is doubled. It is a very high amount. But there are downsides to this as well. When we have studies that show when first responders are overworked, especially police, that can cause safety and health issues for the first responders themselves, but also to the people they're responding to. You can see a loss of judgment or ability just when you're very tired. We all know that feeling. And sometimes you see people who are working shift after shift after shift and having overtime that is a multiple of their baseline salary. And sometimes the number of hours worked is just very concerning. And I asked California State Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, who represents San Diego and is formerly a member of the city council, about this. And he says that generally what's happening is officials say, look, the pension costs are really high for people that we do hire. So it's actually cheaper to do overtime. But what happens when overtime is over $100,000 a year? It's quickly becomes very, very expensive. When I was looking more into the ongoing city discussions on this, City Council member Vivian Moreno, who serves as the vice chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, just in the most recent Budget and Finance Committee meeting, she noted that the budget passed by the City Council and adopted for this year included a lot of staffing cuts that were agreed upon, and that the mayor's office is not actually following through. And it's unclear whether it's even legal for him to do this. Because City Council generally has the ability to have power over the purse, as most legislatures do. And these jobs that haven't been cut add up to about $1.5 million. And so Moreno and city staff are wondering, well, what can be done about this? The city attorney's office has said that some options include you could summon the mayor, ask for answers. You can summon the department heads and ask for answers. And if the answers are unsatisfactory and there has been negligence to carry out the duties that the city council has described, the mayor can be voted to be removed for dereliction of duty. That comes with a very high standard. It also requires a court order finding the mayor to have been derelict in his duty, or a court action. So it's not likely. I'm sure the mayor would probably maybe fire some of the officials in question if that were to be the path that the city council appeared to be pursuing. Mayor Gloria's office didn't respond to requests for comment, so we don't really have his position. We also didn't get any response regarding interview requests. But why don't we read through some of these city employee pay packages so we can see what's happening. Fire captain, one fire captain here, number one, he earned $274,721 in overtime in the 2024 calendar year. His base pay is $53,131 in regular pay. And he also earned an additional $7,430 in lump sum pay and $30,000 in, quote, other pay, this other category, for a total of $365,282. The top five are all over $250,000. There's next a fire engineer who made $260,000 in overtime compared to regular pay of $45,000. Another captain who made $254,000 against $55,000 in regular pay. Police sergeant who earned $252,000 in overtime and against $137,000 in regular pay, and a police officer who earned $252,000 against regular pay of $112,000. So we are seeing a lot of city staff who are clocking in overtime that is several times what their salary is. This does come with safety concerns for, again, the responders themselves. It might be overworked, it might be tired. You can get into accidents. It's not safe for a lot of people to be working such high amounts of overtime. But again, there's also the issue of how are they going to meet the man hours to do this? Nearby Los Angeles, they are facing a huge policing shortage, right? Los Angeles, I think per capita has some, and per square mile adjusted is something, I think it's about half the police that like New York and Chicago do on that adjusted basis, or even less. So it's just a lot harder for these, populated but spread out cities like Los Angeles and San Diego. If they don't have enough man hours, they're not really able to cover the areas they need to as well as they want to. They're not able to address quality of life crimes to the extent that they'd want to, because they just don't have the man hours. And in Los Angeles' case, there is a major financial shortage as well. And the city council is trying to move ahead with funding more police recruit classes. I think recruits make over $90,000 a year, about $90,000 a year, just as soon as they finish the academy. So they're really trying to up pay to improve retention and recruitment. But these discussions over, well, are we going to have more people? Maybe that comes with more pension requirements. Maybe they need to change how the pensions are structured. Maybe people need to just have their own matching 401k plans, as most employers offer. Who knows what the end of that is going to look like, and what changes are going to be made. But what does seem to be clear is that overtime is becoming something that a lot of these cities can no longer afford.
And I know that in the story you wrote that if the city council doesn't find the mayor's enactment of the budget to be satisfactory, they can summon the mayor for answers. Is the city council going to make that move?
No idea. We'll see. It's summoning would be not necessarily meaning that you're going to try to remove him from office. If the budget situation continues to deteriorate, I would not be surprised if something like that were to happen. But again, that would be a moderate step forward towards removing the mayor from office potentially.
And I know the city faces an $18.1 million shortfall. Do you think that the city is actually going to cut down adequately on overtime hours, or perhaps eliminate positions that have had the most overtime in an effort to address that shortfall?
The overtime order doesn't apply to the departments that are really using most overtime, so it's not really going to have a huge impact. Let's also look at the other actions that the mayor has taken. The mayor also ordered a zero-based review of external contracts. That's great. But when you do it 2 years in a row, the second year, you're not going to have as big of an impact. A zero-based review means going through every single contract and like, okay, do we need this? How much does it cost? Can we afford it? you can yield a lot of savings in a first year. Second year, there's just less juice to squeeze. So looking back at the larger budget, right? I think it was multiple $100 million that was had to be cut from this year's budget to balance the books. And they're still showing up about, again, $18.1 million short based on revenue shortfalls or extra spending. And the situation could get a lot worse. Complicating matters is the possible loss of La Jolla. La Jolla has a independence movement that's been bubbling over for decades. At this point, if they lose high-end La Jolla, which is a net tax-paying area, then the city's finances would become in complete turmoil. So the city could be facing some very dire straits in the coming years, and we'll see if they're going to be able to balance the budget.
Well, Kenneth, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about this story.
Thank you.
This has been California in Focus, and I'm Madeline Shannon. Join us next time.